A member of the Kennedy dynasty, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has endorsed Donald Trump for president.
So I may be sitting here talking to the one person in this country that is going to pick the next president of the United States by what you did
possible. That is possible.
Polling around 3 to 6%, RFK withdrew his name from the ballot in key swing states and urged his supporters to vote for Trump. And with that, RFK finalized his divorce with the Democratic Party. In RFK's words, he's supporting Trump because of policy, something Kamala Harris has barely touched on. The DNC was one big party of vibes and joy with nothing concrete as to how she will govern. Her own campaign website doesn't have policy specifics. So how will RFK dropping out affect the election? Here's what he said.
Our polling from the beginning showed pretty consistently that if I got out of the race, 57% of the people who were supporting me would vote for Trump. And so me staying in the race would have swung the race, very likely could have swung the weight race to Harris.
He could have just ended his candidacy and his followers would have probably stayed home on election day. But he chose to use his influence to steer the race in Trump's direction. The deal that they struck was RFK's backing in exchange for Trump tackling RFK's favorite issues, chronic disease in children, reforming the food supply, government and big tech censorship, and even the border in a second term. November is going to be very close, and those extra votes could be huge for Trump. In 2020, Trump lost Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia by about 43,000 votes. Had those gone the other way, it would have resulted in an electoral college tie. This year, the Real Clear Politics average has 7 states currently within 2 points or less. RFK recruits some from the dissident right and left who feel politically homeless. He's had outlandish positions and conspiracy theories on things like vaccines and autism and whether mass shootings are linked to prescription drugs, but he resonates with many who felt the government abused its power during the pandemic.
The trust the experts is not a function of science. That's the opposite of science. Trusting the experts is a function of religion. It's not, and totalitarianism.
Well,
it's not a function of science or democracy. You know, in democracies you question people in authority and maintain a posture of skepticism toward them.
Let's not forget his weird escapades. He's had a bout of brainworms, which may or may not have impacted his cognitive function, and he admitted recently to dumping a bear in Central Park years ago.
And at the end of the dinner, it went late, and I realized I couldn't go home. I had to go to the airport. And the bear was in my car, and I didn't want to leave the bear in the car, because that would have been bad. There'd been a series of bicycle accidents in New York. They had just put in the bike lanes. And so a couple of people had gotten killed, and it was every day, and people had gotten badly injured. Every day it was in the press. And I said, I had an old bike in my car that somebody had asked me to get rid of it. I said, let's go put the bear in Central Park and we'll make it look like he got hit by a bike.
He also refused to deny an allegation of sexual assault by a former nanny.
You're talking there about the nanny situation. I mean, I do have to ask her. I mean, are you denying it or not?
I'm not going to comment on it.
Kook qualities aside, RFK has charisma and the ability to articulate arguments in a way that Trump can't. Trump rambles and rants aimlessly, so RFK could actually bring some polish to the Trump campaign. And they're both former Democrats. Both RFK and Trump have mused about the possibility of RFK getting a cabinet position like CIA director or CDC director in the Trump administration. What really soured RFK on the Democrats was, well, their attempts to sabotage his campaign. Here's RFK's running mate, Nicole Shanahan.
I have to say there's only one party that has obstructed a fair election for us. And unfortunately, it was the Democratic Party. They've done everything they can, including creating PACs to prevent us from being able to have ballot access.
So the party that says Republicans are a threat to democracy sued to keep RFK off the ballot and ousted Joe Biden from being the nominee, who 14 million primary voters chose. Then they ushered in Kamala Harris, who no one chose.
All your fear-mongering about you-know-who.
And Kamala, by the way, allegedly refused to meet with RFK or even give him the time of day.
I tried unsuccessfully to open similar discussions with Vice President Harris. Vice President Harris declined to meet or even to speak with me.
RFK's breakaway was unforgivable to his family, who viewed him as a traitor for daring to diverge from the Democrats. Blood is thicker than water, But not for the Kennedys. They backstabbed RFK because of a difference of political opinion.
I'm outraged and disgusted by my brother's gaudy and obscene embrace of Donald Trump. And I completely disavow and separate and dissociate myself from Robert Kennedy Jr. in this flagrant and inexplicable effort to desecrate and trample and set fire to my father's memory.
Whoa! Throwing your relative under the bus for party loyalty.
It's positively Soviet.
Several of his siblings called this decision a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. While RFK is the rebel of his family, there's a rising Kennedy star who has rode Camelot's coattails all the way to Vogue magazine, where he serves as political correspondent. Introducing Jack Schlossberg, son of Caroline Kennedy and grandson of JFK. He had his own nice words to say about RFK endorsing Trump. Never been less surprised in my life. Been saying it for over a year. RFK Jr. is for sale, works for Trump, bedfellows, and loving it. Kamala Harris is for the people. The easiest decision of all time just got easier. After several months of poor news cycles for the campaign, RFK's presidential hopes were clearly at an end. Even if he only intended to play spoiler on the national stage, his poll numbers were slipping, he wasn't going to be a part of the debates, and winning anything in the Electoral College was out of reach. But despite his diminished support, this endorsement could swing the election. If Kennedy's supporters break substantially for Trump, as he believes they will, it could mean the difference between victory and defeat in those battleground states. Clearly, RFK already believes this, but if you're still not convinced that Kamala Harris would be far more extreme than Biden, you should watch this video next.